Good morning, sir.
Very good day, sir. How are you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Yeah, all well. So, can I see what's written on your t-shirt? Shortest
Uh,
order story I saw, but after that,
Monday.
Monday, Raja. Okay, good one, good one. Hey, today's Saturday.
Yeah.
Today's not a comedy show, but it's a nice show.
That's why I hid it under.
Great.
Yeah.
Hey, so good evening, everyone. This is episode three of a very interesting session that we're doing for startups along with Ashutosh. And today it's going to be sales. Sales is something very critical, and it's a process that I guess, Ashutosh, have to keep learning, isn't it? You can't
Yes.
stop. You can't just stop saying that I know everything just because I was
Yes.
successful. It's a day in day out.
Hmm.
So awesome. So what we'll do is first a thank you to you, Ashutosh, to the INQ Innovation team as well, who are helping us out with outreach, and where you're of course the director of innovation and technology, and of course then we have Jagat, the Vidphone platform, who are the kind hosts, Akhil and Jagat. Thank you so much for allowing us to do this. And for those who don't know me, I'm Vijetha. I'm part of Thai Bangalore. So looking forward to this session, Ashutosh. And what do we have in store for us?
So today we'll do something a little different. So we'll have a presentation, right, and we'll walk through that, but
Wonderful.
we'll still keep it very open. Like I have like brief points, and
Okay.
then we can have like a role playing session. So maybe we can design an app, right? So we'll keep like like a sales strategy for sales and marketing strategy for an app, right? So
Okay.
we'll
Okay.
we'll keep it that way, and I particularly felt that this session requires slides because a lot of people they especially first time founders, right? So they are may not be from tech sales background,
Mhm.
but they do have to do sales at till a certain point. They have to do sales. So
Correct.
so that's why I thought that I'll put together something that would
Absolutely, and it's all about sales. So I think we should just focus on that, which
yes.
is, I mean, by the way, for those who didn't know, the previous two sessions also done through Ashutosh, where we talked about the beginning, right? I mean, like right from the start, how do you start up the company? What are the important things to be doing? And then now we are saying that yes, you're mature, you're started off, you got a product and service in place, and whether it is B2B or B2C or SaaS or IoT hardware, whichever way, sales and marketing is very important. So that's what Ashutosh is going to be taking care of now. And over to you, Ashutosh. I'm also looking forward to the session.
All right. So hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll just go
We'll go.
into
Yeah,
presentation
you
mode.
can go. Yeah, presentation mode, and we'll go full screen. Yeah, perfect.
All right. Okay. So first, because we are talking about like sales and marketing, right? Um, One thing is that sales is not marketing, right? A lot of people confuse that they'll have only one person who will do both sales and marketing.
Hmm.
That's not how it works, right? So marketing is the research part of sales, right? So you do a lot of marketing, you do you have to do a lot of research, and then you have to do a lot of you know apply different strategies for marketing, and those strategies will lead to sales. But then there should also be like sales strategies which are around pricing and stuff like that. So marketing is more around finding the right market, finding the right group where you can do the sale, right? So that's the basic criteria. And the second thing is that when we start, when we are talking about the company, the focus should be whether we are a revenue based or a volume based start, right? Not a startup, but a start. So, we can decide to be more on the volume side to begin with, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that that should not be an final strategy. It should be a strategy only to get some people on board, get some validations done, and that, right? So that first strategy should be around whether it should be definitely revenue related or volume related. And the first question comes is that when you're building the product for the first time, is it possible to get revenue on the first time, right? And it is possible to get revenue on the first time. It depends on the type of market that we are attracting. So right on from the first go, knowing whether we want to go for the volume game or we want to go for the revenue game for the MVP stage is very important. And also the understanding that what we are going to apply for sales is the marketing part. And then when we use those and then get the sales, and then we put the pricing in place, those are the sales part. So just wanted to keep that out, right? And The second thing is the common definitions. When we are talking about sales and marketing, um, the things that we have to understand is what is the market size, right? So the total available market that is to us, right? That is the TAM part of it. And then the market that as a startup we think that we can achieve in maybe through 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is, right? And then there is the obtainable market. The obtainable market is the one which should be the first point of target, or like a subsection of the obtainable market is what the subsection of the market that we want to capture, right? And the second thing is when we are starting out, nobody understands who you are. Nobody understands. Maybe people through the network they understand you know uh, the person in question, but they don't understand the brand, right? It's sure that when, let's say, Anil Ambani or Mukesh Ambani start another company, people will think that, oh yeah, they'll be successful, but there'll still be some doubts where people will think that whether they should use this product or not because it has come from a new hub, right? So whenever we are starting on with at whichever stage we are, right, the basic rule is that it's a 10% rule. So you call 100 people, maybe 10 will respond, and maybe one will try it out, right? So it's always like best to consider when you're considering an obtainable market. uh, do not think that 50% of the market is capturable on get go. It happens. It definitely happens, but it's not like something that can be achieved by all the products, right? So it's best to keep that in mind, that the sales cycles are slow, and that's where the different marketing strategies helps out on the sales cycle. So that's the that's the differentiator. So Vijetha, I've taken this drone startup as an example, but if you want to take something else, we can take that
No,
also as
fine,
an
fine. Let's
example.
take
Yeah,
it at
yeah.
drone. Let's take as many examples as possible, not just on
Mhm,
the slides,
mhm.
but otherwise also. It could be B2B, B2C. What is the different ways to prepare?
Yes,
So, I mean, I would like you to touch base on that for the
yes,
founders.
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, boss.
All right. Okay. So then, the sales and marketing strategies are different as per the stage of the startup. The first stage is the MVP stage, right, where we are making the minimum viable product. We're not going to talk about the product here because we have covered it in some bits. So this is where we assume that the product is ready. The product is on a stage where users can use it. Right? So then, when we are talking about sales and marketing, so the focus should be on the obtainable market. So when we're talking about the obtainable market, right? How do you justify an obtainable market? Right? So the thing is, you have to get local. If I'm in Bangalore, I'll look for strategies that work for me in Bangalore area. And even in that, it's best to get even more local. Like identify a certain demographics. Some things work with specific age groups, some things work with specific gender groups, right? So identify that demographics, which will be ready to purchase. So the objective should be you know the first customer is the one who's ready to try out right now, right here, right now. And that's the demographics we have to find and we have to try out. To do that, to find your demographics, you need to know your type of customer. When we are talking about a B2C, right? And the most helpful are the people who are ready to try out new products, whether it's like a product in hand, it's an app, it's an application, it's a website, whatever it is. People who are ready to venture out. And this is true for any company, right? So when actually, if you think about TikTok, right, now it's like a global phenomenon, but it started as a like a small app, and then musically, and it had a small base, which was very US focused teens who were getting into it. And that's where identification was done that people are ready to use something like this. Now it's like used by everyone, or it was rather used by everyone, but it started out as a different journey and a different product to start with. So that identification is very important. Who are we targeting? what's the demographics, right, in the B2C. And the story with B2B becomes slightly more different. It's a slightly more complicated thing because we are selling to an organization. No matter how big, how small, organizations have their own procedural ways of approving something new. And so to get into that, we need to not only know the organizations that we are going to approach, who in those organizations are the right people that we have to approach. And that's what, that's where we make our marketing and the sales plan. So for instance, let's say if we consider our drone app, right? And if we are going towards the consumer side, the first thing, if I have to do something, the first thing I'd do is I'd go to the local places where drones are being sold, whether it's like SP Road in Bangalore or somewhere else, not online, right? So online is just one part of it, but it's best to get as local as possible. And then we go and we see what are the type of drones are which are, or rather products which are being sold, what type of people are coming to buy, talking to the shopkeepers, talking to people around, and then we understand like what is the market that we are getting in, right? On the business side, right, it's not only important to understand which businesses or organizations are interested in the product, it is also important to understand who are the people who are doing this in the field, right? The organizations have like different groups and teams which are handling certain situations, and those teams, who is the decision maker and what is the right way to approach them, right? So that's all part of the marketing plan. That's all part of the research that goes out in the marketing plan. And I will share one example of my own app, like when we were doing our fintech app, and then we had to approach different banks, and we had to research on the banks, and then we have to research on the type of people. And I'll just get into that for a 1 minute, so that I can show where we were.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
also, Ashutosh, I wanted to touch on policy and regulation awareness also.
Sure.
See,
Yeah.
especially you understand, right? I mean, why I said for drones, for example,
Mhm.
you got to know everything, right?
Yes.
Whether it's
Yes.
agri or defense or state government, whatever it is.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sure.
All right. So I'll share everything. I think I was just sharing the presentation. It
Huh.
makes sense to share everything.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it's come back.
Yeah. So here is our research. I'll just
Okay.
enlarge it.
Huh, just
So
enlarge. Okay,
yeah.
okay,
So
yeah.
so basically, the first thing for us to know when we were going to the banks was each bank had their own classification of the people that they were talking about. There was like GMs and DGMs and then AGMs and all that, right? So who's making the decision? So that hierarchy is very important, right? So we built that hierarchy tree, right? And this is for State Bank of India, by the way. So getting all the details of who is the decision maker, right? So where is the DGM, for instance, if I have to do something for the credit policy, right? So that was where we were. So this is where we had to target. This is the group DGM IRMD, which is the one which we have to target, right? So that's part one. Part one of the research was finding out the organizations and how they're set up. Part two of the process was this huge database of people. I hope it opens. Yeah, it did. So these are all the names. I'm gonna hide their numbers. So these are basically all the branch managers, and then their position in that place, right? And it took us a painfully long time to get this list, right? And so while we were building the product, one of us was in charge of getting this information and then finding out how this information will be structured. So that's what goes in part of the marketing, goes as part of understanding who's the target audience where we are stressing upon. And then coming to the sales part, right? So I'll just go back to the slide. um, that's where we have to talk about the things that you were saying, regulations, what cost are we giving, right? What other people like the competitors, and then if let's say that organization is using a similar product, what is the offerings of that product, right? And how that product is priced. So that's one part of it, right? Knowing the cost, pricing it aggressively. The second part is, in especially B2B case, is your product meeting all the regulations, right?
Yeah.
Whether we are talking about drones, so when we are talking about drones, then there's the FAA policies of the air regulations. When we are talking about fintech, it's like the banking regulations. There's like so many of them, right? So RBI has its own, SEBI has its own. Depending on the type of fintech platform, it has its own. When we are talking about IoT, then it gets very generalized, because the home automation solutions have a different regulations. The building management has a different regulation. The fire management has a different regulation. So understanding each and every one of those regulations is important before we go to the customers. So all that comes as part of the sales plan, knowing where we are and what we do, and then creating a deck so that we are ready for going to the customer. So that's the part of the MVP stage, and this is very important because all of this activity, while it seems long, it is for one or two people, right? The first customer, right? It'll go out to a lot of people. It'll go out to like hundreds and thousands of people, right? But in this, you have to find out that one person who's ready to use the app, who's ready to use the product, and then give out the an honest opinion. And then they, whether they are like recurring customers, whether they are someone who would um, uh, talk about your product to other people, someone who is going to be a long-term partner in terms of getting the business. So that's where the marketing and the sales plan excuse me, for the MVP stages, to find that one person who's, I don't want to use the word loyal, but the person who is there with you, and then you are able to surprise them with future products in such a way that they continue to be a customer for you.
Yeah.
So that's what is very important, and it's important both in the B2B side and the B2C side.
B2C
uh,
side, yeah.
yeah, because B2B, you have to understand that while we think that our product is great, they get organizations get solutions like that, may not be similar to it, but at least in terms of the pitching solutions which are similar to it all the time, right? So what offerings you're giving right now and how you're going to continue to give those offerings becomes very important. And that's true for B2C also. So when we're talking about like B2C, consumers have so many options these days that it's very hard to switch from one place to another, right? The best example of that is what happened 2-3 days back when WhatsApp came up with new policies, and literally everyone right now in our groups is talking about like how to move from another one place to another, right? So it's, if an organization like WhatsApp, which is handling 38 billion messages per day, if it goes through that, so then we can imagine that for a small startup which is starting out, it is so important that we build a product, and then we build like a plan where we are able to give something to those customers all the time, right? And while that seems a little more on the product side, it's also as part of the the marketing strategy. Let's say in a B2C app, the marketing strategy is, whether we are doing revenue based or volume based, the strategy is that we run a campaign, right, in which we know we are offering something to the customers, right, or the consumers. So that's basically a marketing strategy which will help see how many consumers like that, and then whether they want to retain into that, and that helps in building the product. So the marketing and sales plan is not just a revenue plan, it's also a sort of a waterfall iteration for the product itself, and that's why it becomes very important to understand that.
Good.
So the next one is the growth stage.
Hmm.
Um, this is a very fundamentally ununderstood stage, for a lack of better word,
Hmm.
because it's very hard to understand when we have moved from an MVP to a growth stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are obviously some precursors and then some indicators of it, revenue being one of them, and the product maturity being another, or then the age of the product being the other. But is it enough, right? So let's say we go from Bangalore to whole of Karnataka, and then let's say from that we go to maybe whole of India. Are we then a mature product, right? Maybe not, because if you are trying to enter a different market, let's say a European market or an Australian market or an US market, then you are back to scratch, right? Then you are back to your, I mean, not at an MVP stage, but you are at a stage where the product has to be, the marketing has to be realigned, the sales has to be realigned. So the growth stage is a place where most startups get complacent. And the growth stage is an unidentified area, because it is the area where uh, the product defines some of it, but this is where the sales objectives are more important. This is where the product has to balance between the sales and the product itself, right? The company has to balance between the sales and the product itself. And that's why at this point it is very important to have an individual owner for sales and an individual owner for marketing. At an MVP stage, it's great to do it yourself. Do it using some basic Excel tools and something like that. But this is where a team lead has to be there. Someone who has to build a sales strategy. Someone who has to build a marketing strategy. And this is where simple tools like Excel stop working, and then you have to invest in something like the CRM. And there are very good alternatives. Zoho has a CRM, and then the one that we use, is Suit CRM, right? So this is a open source. It can be installed, downloaded, and then it can be put on any system. Not trying to give them more business, but it's open source, so it's something that worked for us, and then we used it for almost 2 years before we moved on to Salesforce. So so investing at a CRM at this point is very important, because it's no longer about getting the name of the customers and the name of the consumers, right? So it's about building strategies. And this is where when we are talking about the marketing team, right? And we are talking about let's say B2C, so we have to understand consumer behaviors, right? So like a lot of behavioral psychology goes into it. Meyer-Briggs, and all that psychology based tools are very important. We have to understand buying patterns. Buying patterns, change over a period of time, right? So, for instance, 2 years ago, literally everyone was buying a drone, right? And now it has come down to very specific niche, points. So in terms of like if you look at a graph, right? Whenever something new or a new emerging tech comes up, there is always like this peak period where everyone's talking about it, and then slowly it neutralizes and comes to a point where it has its own value, right? So drones have now come to a point where people understand their worth and they understand their value, right? So so there are very specific cases where drones are used, and then in both consumer and this business organizations. So understanding that is very important, and then also the trends that are going on. For instance, this year in India, the most drone cases were in like traffic monitoring, and the other one was in agri-tech. So these are the trends that are going right now. Whether they will be the trends next year, we don't know, right? So that's what we have to find out. It could be, like Amazon tried something like delivery through drones. Um, it's a very underappreciated idea, but it's a fantastic idea, right? So those are the trends we have to identify or set, and then the understanding of the business sales directions, right? So that's one part, right? A marketing team that is focused on this research. It's focused on finding out what works, what doesn't work, and Second thing is, now the product and the sales are intertwined. Uh, the way the sales moves is the way the product changes, and that's why it's called the growth stage. Because it's not like, we are at a place where it's an Uber and then we know that, there are three types of cabs and everything works that way, right? It's a stage where the way we are the sales is happening is the way our product is shaping up. It's not specifically a pivot, but I would say that it's an iteration of multiple pivots, right? It may be that, at an MVP stage we were a different product, and our objective and aim is to make a different product, right? But this is where, based on customer feedbacks, based on the market feedback, we are shaping up the product, right? So this product has to be intertwined with it, and that's where it helps to know the competition. And the different sales and marketing strategies help us against pricing it against different competitions. And then finally, when we are talking about sales, we have talked about marketing, we have talked about the product, and then the third thing to talk about is the sales. So sales is where we have to create an action plan. When we are at a growth stage, this is where the action plans are created. This is where we define different stages of the growth stage. If we want to say that this month, we have to achieve a sales of, let's say, $80,000. Right? How do we achieve that? Correct. So that's the objective. How do we achieve that objective? We run multiple marketing strategies, right? So we run like short campaigns. We say that maybe if you get this product, you'll get this for free. That's like the standard FMG cycle where they're giving buy one get one free and something like that, right? So if we do it in a like an app based products, maybe if you get this, you'll get the subscription for free. Maybe if you do this, you'll get this for free. So these are the small campaigns, but they have to be very small campaigns. Maybe like a 3-day campaign or a 4-day campaign, and then the impact of that campaign on the sales, right? And that's what defines uh, different strategies that go into the marketing for achieving that sales objectives. So that's the growth stage. The growth stage is where um, there is one certain strategy, and then there are like campaigns, marketing strategies, and research that go in to get those objectives or to meet those objectives.
Correct. So, Ashutosh, one question that I have,
Sure.
right? See, many times the founders kind of look at, can we just hire some people and do sales? But I think a lot of the experienced folks will also say that the first few sales, the first customer and everything
Mhm.
must be done by the founder,
Yes.
so that they can really create SOPs, the templates, FAQs, etc., and then
Yes.
train and be part of the sales process with their team.
Yes.
That's the best way to do it. And of course, after that, you have to scale up, right? What do
Yes.
you
Yes.
think about that?
Yeah, so that's why the MVP stage, when we talk about the MVP stage, it's up to us as founders. It's up to us to get that. It's up to us to understand, because there are two reasons for that. The first reason is that we understand our product best.
Mhm.
So when we understand the product best, so we understand what is the obtainable market for it, right? So let's take an example, right? If today somebody tells me that you make an app for beer, right? And uh, let's say I want to make an app which says wherever beer is the cheapest, right? So now, knowing where I am, I probably stay in Koramangala, right? Knowing all the local breweries and pubs over there, it's easier for me to go and then find out the pricing and put it on my app, right? So the first sales strategy has to come from the founders itself. I agree. I absolutely agree to that. But that's the MVP stage. The moment you have your first paying customer, the moment you have a volume at which you are able to retain some people, right? Retain some customers. That's when you go to the growth stage, and that's when you need to have like one person, whether it's an advisor, whether it's a team member, who's driving that sales strategy and a marketing strategy, right? And that's where we can do that, right? As founders we can do that, but it's also important to have like a separate wing for it, right? Because this is the stage where you already have customers, right? And then the customers have certain demands. Let's say if you're talking about a B2B app, right? And then we go back to our drone app. So we make a drone and then we sell it to, let's say, a company XYZ. Now that company is saying, great, we want 100 new orders, provided you can do this for us, provided you can add maybe a camera to the sensor, right? So then now my entire team is working on getting that camera mounted into that drone, correct? So I don't have that time to do another round of sales and marketing because I get so much involved with my existing customers, making sure that they stay and then they're able to sustain, and then we are able to give them the best services.
Mm-hmm.
It is important to have like one person who is an onlooker to this, right? Onlooker to the sales strategy. And this is what happens to majority of startups. If you ask them, uh, do they have a sales team member, and they say that they're doing the sales despite they have the customers, it's you'll see them running around. You'll see them running around to different
Yeah,
new
and
businesses, and then you get
correct,
you
correct.
do that, and then something will fail. Either the product will slow down, or the sales will slow down, or something. So having a best out person right now is something which will make the ball rolling in both cases. So that's why here it's important to have like one person who is an onlooker to the product itself from a sales perspective.
Hmm. Interesting. And now, Ashutosh, we could switch gears to maybe B2C or some of your other slides.
Mhm.
And also, I know this is a very long process, but if you can also give some personal anecdotes of failures and how
Yes.
you recovered as we go along, right? That would be
Yes.
interesting also.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I have one more slide, and then
Yeah, please,
we'll
please.
go back
Yeah, of
into the
course, of course.
the role playing start part,
Yeah,
right? And then we'll take one example,
correct,
right?
correct.
So the third stage, or where I say it's called the product stage, right? So this is where you made your brand, right? Like for instance, we don't take a cab to work, right? We take an Uber, correct? So maybe you have come to this point where you have made this a brand, right? And we as humans are like very brand conscious, correct? We buy a certain set of products for a different reason, right? So it's not like uh, we'll go and buy everything which is out there in the market, right? So that identifiable brand is very important, and it depends from person to person, right? So for me, brand is very different than what is a brand for you, and then for somebody else, right? So making that brand is very important, and then how to expand that brand is is the important part of the product stage. This is where the most important thing is to understand the ripple effect. That is, a small change in the brand, what does how heavily it impacts their entire product line, right? It may be one product, it could be multiple products, right? So for instance, not taking Bitphone into consideration, but let's say we're talking about like uh, um, as a online meeting app, right? So and then let's say they make a small change, and then that change is maybe to give like a background blur. I see that it's here, right? And that becomes like a hit thing, right? So understanding that ripple effect, that how a small change or a small variation, whether improves the brand or reduces the loyalty of the brand, that becomes very important, right? And here, the other important thing is because the market size has not changed. Now we are not just restricted to an obtainable market. We are talking about like an addressable market, or maybe more than that. We need to get like localized marketing teams which understand the local market. It could be state level, it could be nation level, it could be like a certain geography level, right? So it depends. It depends on how we are marketing it. But the sales team has to be more hyper local. That means that if there is like one, let's say we say that the entire Karnataka tier two marketing will be done by one team, right? Just as an example, it doesn't mean that that there would be a sales team which will also do the same thing. The sales team will be local. The sales team will be like the foot soldiers who are there, who are taking that product, talking to people, and then getting that right. Because uh, again is the is the inverse pyramid. You'll talk to 1,000 people, then 100 people will call back, and then out of that 10 people will maybe use the product, right? So it happens all the time. So at this point, a hyper localized sales team is very important. And at this point, it's also important to just not do the sales yourself. This is where we expand. This is where we talk to system integrators. If we are in like the hardware business, or if we are in the like the product business where there's actually a physical product in hand, find the system integrators. They do two things, right? So one, they will be able to sell your product, and then second, a lot of these system integrators have a venture wing of their own. So it may be interesting to find some synergies in terms of like investments and other things, right? So that's one part, right? Building a sales channel, finding out like local people who are ready to take your product and then talk about it and then sell it to other people, right? So that's the other thing. And then the third is the partnerships, right? So when we're especially talking about like consumer apps, this is where the important thing is, let's say I have a TikTok competitor, right? Something that I've made, and then I partner up with Netflix, and I say that 10 people who use my app, and then they produce these best videos will get like a monthly subscription from Netflix, something like that, right? So that's where it's very important to build those partnerships. Then your team is not just in your own domain; it's also outside of the domain. It's also about people who are in the game, who have been doing it for a while, and then they start helping you out. So that's where the product stage is, and that's where you're ready to take it to the next level. You're ready to stabilize the product, and then this is where there are very few changes to the product itself. There are more changes around the sales, and then what sales driven changes can be made to the product itself. So that's the part. Okay.
Understood. And Ashutosh, who do you admire in the last few years in India? I'm just on an Indian context.
Okay.
If some of the it could be example of IoT hardware or SaaS or whatever it is.
Mhm.
Who are the founders that in the last couple of years have really done great, and they're growing and they're staying glued on to profits and all that kind of stuff. Can you give some examples?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the best examples we have is UvaPay, right? So I mean, I think that team is doing very well, and then uh, they're still very localized, but I think in the last 3 years they have understood the market, and then they know what they're doing, right? And so that's one example, right? So that's from a very B2C perspective. And from a B2B perspective, there is, um, of course, Cipher Code, right? So they are doing very well.
Venkat, yeah, Venkat's a good guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So and they started with like Stanley Sofa, and then now they have like few other brands in their system, right? So these are the people that in our local circle that we know. And other than that, if we are talking about like just India in general, and then people in India who are doing that, I'm a big fan of Big Basket, right?
Okay.
Yeah, because they have a tough competition from like Amazon, and if you look at all around the world, right? I mean, this hyper local delivery and all that has been tried in multiple places, and then either successful or taken over by Amazon, or failing, but they've held on their own. So I have like huge admiration for them. And in our own IoT field, I'm a big fan of our friends Derek, right, from Futura.
Of course, of course, of course.
Because it's the kind of recognitions they have and the kind of things that they're trying to do, it's fantastic. And we have actually partnered with them on few of the occasions, and then it's a phenomenal team to work with. And so we've seen their journey, right? So it's a good IoT company to work with. So in our network, I have like huge admiration for these few folks who have been doing very well.
Impressive, impressive. And also now, Ashutosh, is your slides over for this particular round? You have the next round slides, right?
Yeah. So the next thing, I mean, this is just some sales methodologies, but the next thing I want to talk about is like how to approach a person,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Like this question comes to me very often, that how you are approaching a person,
Hmm.
right? And of course there is like the strategies, and then we talk about like what are the different strategies, right? And at least from my point of view, when I started out, my favorite tool at that point was Crystal Nose. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I'll just give a very quick demo of that product, right? So Crystal Nose sits here. It has a lot of uh, activities that it does. Ooh, prediction failed. Okay, so basically, it does like Myers-Briggs and then other, like behavioral uh, methodologies it uses to find out like people who would be best to speak to. So, for instance, let's say I search for you, right? I've never done this before, right? So let's say, I'll search for you, right?
Ashutosh, don't do it, bro. Don't do it. Not allowed. Not allowed.
Not alone. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to, it's from my point of view, right? So
Yeah.
let's say I want to connect with you from, I'll hide all that, right? So I want to make a sales pitch to you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it has these things. So first of all is it, I mean, I've given all my information to this tool.
Uh,
It has, everything about me. It knows like what kind of poor person I am in terms of judgment making and all that, right?
Look at what they're saying about me. Yeah? Has a
Uh,
strong and may impatient at times.
but you're not, right? So but
Yeah.
so that's what, right? So but here are the things that we have to, I can do with you: make a good impression, persuade to take action,
Mm.
things like this. But let's say I want to make a sales pitch with you, right? And then I do get advice.
Ah.
So this is what it tells me, right,
Mm.
about you. And this is purely based on you have not taken this test. If you took this test, it will become even better, right? Right. So, but it says try to keep the conversation focused. That knowing you, I know it's very true, right? Send visual aids. I mean that you can tell, right? And then what are the things that don't do, correct? So in the last 3 years, I've used this tool phenomenally, right? I mean,
Which is this? By the way, which is this tool? This is the sales.
it's not a sales tool per se, but it's more of like a behavioral analysis tool.
Acha, acha.
It's called
Okay,
Crystal
okay.
Notes, right?
Crystal nose. Interesting.
Yeah, it's been my constant companion. Like
Okay,
whenever,
okay.
even right now, if I get like a connection request from someone who wants to meet me for certain things,
Uh-huh.
the first thing I do is I go to their LinkedIn profile and run this Crystal Notes to
Interesting.
see,
No, no, good one, good one, good
right?
one, good one.
So this has been like my lifeline, right?
Mm.
So I have used this forever, right? So it uses this disk, and then you can, if you, I mean, I would suggest that once you have moved out from MVP stage, pay them. It's not that expensive, it'll help you getting into a lot of things, right?
Okay.
Especially from a sales and marketing perspective.
Mm.
Right? uh, and this demo was not for them too. I have no association to them, right? But it's just like you saw, it was very easy to get some basic insights into someone that you want to talk to and then you
Mm,
want to
mm.
get help, right? And then the second is of course open suit CRM, right? So it's an open source tool. This is very important, right? Even like at an MVP stage, if you want to do it, great. At an MVP stage, we kept it very simple. We used Excel. We created, in fact, I have like more than 10 or 11 Excels which are dedicated to this work only, right? So there's one for sales, there's one for marketing, there's one for like finding out all the VCs in the area, there's one for finding out like all the advisors in the area,
Mm,
right?
mm.
So we did that, right? But the moment we got to a place where the sales were coming, I can't do that, right? So you try to get an accounts team, or you try to get like a soup CRM where you are able to manage all these things on your own, right? So important to get your toolings in place. And then the third thing is this tool, I called it the MVP spec tool, right? um, it's a very interesting tool. It talks about like how you can make an MVP, and then it runs some examples, right? So you have to solve this Diogene quiz, right? But it's taking examples of good products like Zappos, which was a very famous shoe brand in US, and Amazon bought it in 2008 or something, right? So they were one of the first online shoe stores, and then Amazon bought that. So then it talks about iPod, and then what are the MVP features, right? So you put that, right. You can't check on all the boxes. That's the whole point of it, right?
Mm.
So I use these tools. I'll definitely put them in the our
Yeah,
chat,
yeah.
and then we get
No, no,
that, right.
carry on. Don't worry, Ashutosh.
Yeah,
Carry on with
yeah.
your.
No, so I mean, I think most of my things are done. I just wanted to have like a small role playing session with you. Like, let's say
Yeah,
as a if I have a customer, like if I'm
yeah.
a like a product maker or a startup, like, and then you are a like a customer, like what are the
Mm.
things that you would
Sure,
ask,
sure,
right? Like
sure,
randomly you'll
sure.
ask, and then we can do that,
Definitely, definitely. And I'll
right?
be impatient with you. Huh? I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so now I know some things about you, Vijay.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good.
Okay, so let's take a product, right? Whichever product, I'll let you choose. What product we should talk about, and I'll stop my screen sharing, and so that I can see you again, and then we can have that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So let's take look. Like a drone product. We've been talking about drone, right? Or if there's something else you want to talk about,
You can talk about your own product, Ashutosh. I mean, any of your products, like if you're
fantastic.
comfortable with it. Yeah,
Okay, it's even better, right? So I
yeah,
think I
yeah, yeah.
can speak
Please,
better
please.
on
I'm,
it. So okay, so I have an IoT product, right? So I'll not make a sales pitch to you, but just for people around. So it's a AI based anomaly detection in for IoT, and then sensors and all that, right? So it does that. So now let's say you are an organization, and I have found out through my research that you are the head of IoT in a company XYZ, right? So now I've approached you, and so let's start.
yeah, yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay, all right. Hello, sir. Is this a good time to speak to you?
Absolutely no problem, Ashutosh. Very good evening to you.
Okay. So just thank you for your time, and I'll not take much of your time, and I just wanted to talk to you about the product. As you've seen my email already, that I have sent you a presentation of what my product is. Just to give you a brief about what we do, we are a small company, and we have been working on an anomaly detection software for the last 2 3 years. We have been awarded the following prizes, and then we have been rated as one of the best anomaly detection platforms. And right now we are working with some of the bigger companies like Excite Industries, and then also with Blopunk and others in Chennai. We also have done some research work in terms of how it will be very helpful if you are using this anomaly detection in your company. And here are some of the the metrics that we have covered. We ran a very small simulation, taking a small subset of data that you had, and based on that simulation, we found out that our product is giving 1.3 times more productivity to your people than what it was giving earlier. And what we would like to do now is we'd like to give you a small demo of the product, and we hope that you can see the importance of this product, and then you can
Yeah,
give it a
please go ahead
chance.
with the demo because I've seen your slides and I've seen that there could be potential for us to save money and also do better in terms of our customer activities. So you please show us if you can demonstrate that even better through this. Please go ahead.
Okay, okay. So I'll just give you a small demo, and as you can see that while I've taken this sample data, and in this sample data we have we have covered about 30 days of data. And when we saw that when you are collecting 30 days of data based on the the presentations that were put on in the slide decks for your annual meetings, we saw that you were taking a considerable amount of time, like let's say 2 3 days to get this data. But as you can see, I'm showing you in the demo that right now you can get that in about 5 minutes time. And here as once I run this platform, now that you're seeing that there are these peaks which are causing the problems in your system,
Yeah, we've
and
noted
you
that.
can.
But Ashutosh, my CFO has told me that your price points are very, very, very high, and the value
Yes.
might be there, but you have to figure out how to make it more better for us in terms of price and value, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we can do is because these pricings were based on the number of data points that we have collected. So obviously, what we can do is we can start with a small subset of data points, and you can tell me because you have like different locations. So you can tell me which location where we can start with, and at that location we can put like a small subset of that, and then obviously I can get my team to focus on just giving you that part of value. So pricing right now, I mean, there are certain reasons why we have kept this pricing, but if we are, allowed to show you on a small subset of data, then maybe you'll understand that there is a reason for this pricing. But as you can see from this slide, our pricing is still, lesser than any other competition that is there, including the ones that you're using. So we priced it aggressively, but given that if we are able to meet your, certain demands in terms of like how the sensors are behaving, so maybe we can do some more if we are able to get a long term partnership.
Okay, definitely. And also, one of the things, Ashutosh, that is very, very important for us is what kind of support will you offer to us? Because we don't want to adopt the solution and then find out that the solution, the support is not there that we need, which is not, it won't be adequate. So we need some written legal assurances on that, please.
Yeah, sure. So we have two plans. So one is what we call as the hypercare plan. So that's a plan where once we do this installation, one support person will be there 24/7 at your field, given the permissions that we have to take from your compliance department, and they will be supporting it for 30 days, which includes supporting the application as well as training your own personnel. And after that, we do a 1 year, there's a 1 year plan, and after that you can always take an AMC. The AMC prices are already included in the slide deck.
All right. Thank you so much. And I look forward to this press to your other details. And obviously, from the onboarding point of view and the legal point of view, we would expect that all these points that we have discussed is very clearly illustrated because we need to notify it. And, our legal team will be running through this. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, once again, thank you for this opportunity. I'm very happy that you like the product, and then we are hoping that we are able to deploy it as soon as possible. From our side, we have met all the compliance. We have checked what are the things that are needed from your company standpoint, from a compliance perspective. So if you can give a go ahead, and then so then we can take this further, and then talk to your accounts department to get this started out.
Perfect, perfect. Thanks so much. And one thing is that I've seen comments that wow, we're a very kind potential customer. But you know
You
what?
are.
What usually, yeah, yeah. But usually they are very nice. And
Yes.
what most customers do, whatever they put the legal, the finance, the whatever accounting team, etc. in the front as a bad. Not I won't say bad,
Mm.
but to make the tough.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's see how that goes. Great,
Mm.
great, great. So Ashutosh, we are 53 minutes into the session. All right.
Mm. Mm.
You had one slide which you kind of skipped through about the tools, right? If I'm not mistaken. Can you just show that to us?
Yeah, sure. So,
Yeah. I put some of the links that you talked about, Crystal, Black Design, and Suit CRM. I put the links here on the
okay,
video.
okay, perfect, perfect.
But if there's something else, the resources or, yeah,
So, let me just share.
yeah. I think it was the previous to previous slide or something, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
This one?
Yeah, yeah. This is the one. This is the one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So these are like different, sales strategies, right? And this I would say is important then when we are actually getting more into the growth stage, of course, right? So it won't apply when we are talking into the MVP stage, and
Mhm.
so spin is basically situations, problems, implications, and payoff, right? So basically where you try to understand the current situation. So it's very situation specific sales, right? So you see, let's say going back to our last week's discussion when we were talking about uh, like demonetization or GST. So it's a very specific situation, right? So it was a win-win for few people. Demonetization was win-win for like digital wallets, right? GST was win-win for like the tax people who were making the accounting softwares and stuff like that, right? So, but at that time, right? Till that time, maybe those companies are floating, and then at that time they just pumped onto it, and then leaned onto the the right strategies to get that data. So spin basically works in that way, right? And and here also, again, it's important to understand that what are the questions to ask, right? Like both GST and demonetization, so very consumer specific example. But when you're talking to let's say a market collapse, right?
Hmm.
And you are like a hiring company, right? So you are into like maybe like Naukri or something like that, right? So the first question is, you go and you ask your people what kind of organizations, what kind of people they laid off, right? What kind of resources they're looking for. So that's a situation, and then based on that situation you find a problem and then you solve it. So that's what spin basically relies on, right? And then NEAT is basically about the economic impact, right? So it stands for, I think, core needs, economy, authority, and timeline. So these are like different strategies. I think I can find like a website which talks about all of these. Medic is the most important of this all. The Medic is the one which is more enterprise level, right? So once you have gone from the smaller stage to a like a large scale, so that's when the Medic principles apply, and then you get into that system, right? Challenger sale, of course, we understand. So you are like a new player into a market. So let's say you're making another Facebook. So how do you position your product in a way that you're able to challenge them. Conceptual is where I would say that India has failed quite miserably. We have not been able to come up with like new products, right? So we have mostly made products which are like, or I mean, it's not like we have not had startups which are making genuine Indian solving products, but most of the success that we have seen in terms of like VCs and then consumers is mostly around solutions which already had like a US market or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an existing market, right? So, but conceptual selling is a big point, especially in countries outside. The biggest example I think of this in India is, and I saw this very recently, which I really loved, was uh, petrol on the go. So there's this truck which brings petrol to your home and then you can fill it,
Okay,
right? I didn't
okay.
know that. It was like a fantastic product, right? So again, no affiliations with them, but then I thought that it was a good concept, and then so but I've not seen much ad marketing for it, or I've not seen even Google ads for it. When I googled for it also, it was very hard to find. So conceptual marketing basically focuses on the sales of such products, right? So there are like, these are like different sales strategies that go into solving, and then I'll put them in that also, and then we can talk about it.
Perfect, perfect. Hey, so I just want to also ask you a couple of quick questions, Ashutosh, because in the
Sure.
interest of time, we'll not do too much in the thing. But how does the okay, okay? I'm not saying that it's about a pandemic or whatever it is,
Mm,
but the skill sets.
mm,
It has to be around sales, remote sales, with using video tools,
mm,
using like how do you use white papers, blogs, thought leadership. So
mm,
how important is these kind of things? I mean, it's not exactly sales, but it leads to sales or it leads to reputation building or thought leadership, which is
mm,
very critical in a crowded market. So
mm.
how do you work on those kind of aspects?
Uh, uh, I would say experience, right? I mean, it plays the major role, and it's oh, your video shut down, is it?
No, I'm there. I'm very much there. Ashutosh.
Okay.
Continue, continue.
All right. Okay. So yeah, it's experience and then learning, right? So I mean, I am not a salesperson. I'm terrible at sales. I'm a very gullible person. If you stand in front of me and you sell me something, I'd probably buy it. That's why I buy everything from Amazon, right?
So that's all about ability to pay, man, Ashutosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So so for me it was very important to read. That's why I know all these, like spin and all this. So it was, for me it was very important to understand these different sales cycles, especially building the first product, which is a fintech product. I built it on my own. I didn't have a co-founder to start with, right? So there it was not very easy to understand, and then a lot of research, a lot of studying, then going back to the basics. I went to HDFC Bank just like that, right? So I went to the branch and I said that, can I sell the product, right? So I thought that maybe that direct approach will help. Then I understood, they were talking about like AGMs and GMs, and I was like, what the hell is this? So I went back and then I started reading on the organizational charts, and that's where the whole story
Yeah,
came.
yeah,
So that's a lot of research, and then you have to do
correct,
that.
correct.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, man. That's really interesting. So that means there's a lot of work that you have to put in. You have
Yes.
to really focus on these things. Hey, Jagat, we have Jagat online. Hey, Jagat, good evening.
Good evening, Jagat.
Yeah, yeah.
Good evening.
So
Really insightful session, Ashu.
Thank you.
so this is the thing, right? Remote sales, video sales.
Is there any chance another tab open?
Yeah, I think so. Is it? Should I disconnect here and call you back, or what is it?
One second.
Yeah.
Hmm. Not sure why they.
Is it okay now? Better, or
It's still there.
you want to disconnect and come back?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So let him come back, and so the thing that's happening also, is that what are the new things that we can use, not just for the sake of using it,
Mhm.
but considering the current situation, and you want to tap global markets, etc., right? Then
Mhm.
till Jagat comes back.
Mhm.
So, for example, in your startups or the people that you all have invested in, or the people you are mentoring, guiding, advising, etc.,
Mhm.
what are the latest thought processes going around on improving sales or sales service, etc.?
So two things that we do, right? This is like a industry coined word. It's called pre-sales.
Hmm.
Pre-sales is where you have like people who are in technology and who are helping on sales. So we see a lot of like, if you look at business analysts, right? So they wear both hats. They wear the customer hat, and then they wear also the the technology hat. So somewhere like that, there's the pre-sales team, right?
Hmm.
So pre-sales, investment is pretty interesting, and it's been going on in the TCS and all this is very heavy on that, right?
IBM also, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what we do is we train our salespeople to understand the product also. Give them the product, let them play around with the product, and then they also understand the product. Uh, what this does is that when they go to the customer, they're just not speaking up in the air. They because they've used it, so they know that let's say if the customer asks a specific question, how do you do this, and then they're like, yeah, I've used it, I know how it works, right? So they do that, right? So they're slightly more techni savvy, right? So they're not like even if they're salespeople, so they understand that. Obviously when you go a little more hyper local, it becomes slightly harder. So then the cycle becomes like a hyper local team, then the pre-sales team, and then the actual people coming. So what we do is because we don't have enough people for the pre-sales, so we train our sales guys to understand the technology. We let them play with the product, we let them break the product, right, and then see how we can fix it, and then they give us this insights over this is what the customer is looking for, and then we add that, or we talk about it whether this is important for us to add. So getting them tech savvy is very important
Very interesting.
in the product, of course, in the
Yeah,
product.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Ashutosh. Now we have Jagat. Are we okay now? It's
Hope
sounding
so.
good, right?
I don't know.
Ah, okay,
Are you able to
perfect.
hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you very, very clearly, Jagat. Thank you so much.
Because sometimes I think something has to come up, right, to keep me
Yeah,
on my toes daily.
yeah. So Jagat, we
Thank
were
God.
just
Yeah, thank God.
like how Ashutosh was talking about pre-sales using the technology teams to handle any kind of objections, and also to do a lot of research around how the customer, because the customer also is extremely savvy these days. So
Hmm.
how do you see, and this is I think a very critical thing, remote sales, vmail, there's video crms, etc., that you're building, the virtual office, whatever, you have got so many other thought processes, plans, etc. How does it work, and how do you think that these can make a big difference for founders? Wanted you and Ashutosh to kind of exchange some thoughts and notes on that.
I think really a lot of valuable insights, Ashutosh. Thanks. I mean, always, there is enough content available on the internet, but many times we realize that only when there is a person who can actually deliver it to you in a condensed way, it actually comes in a very nice way. Right? So that's really wonderful, Ashutosh. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
See, the way I see it, yes, it's very relevant, right? In fact, one of my questions I was asking Ashutosh, how do you, this pandemic era,
Hmm.
especially the enterprise sales, right? When you look at high ticket, we know the dynamics. It's typically relationships. You have to meet them, and physical meetings. Of course, that's been the kind of order of the day. So, how do things change? Is my question. Of course, and we also work a little bit on this. So I'll just share a little bit of my thoughts. Uh, in fact, I just had a conversation in the afternoon with my father and my brother-in-law. I just visited them, and they work with my brother-in-law works with banks. He works with cybersecurity,
Mhm.
and my father, of course, is in corporate law. So you're talking to GMR Group, Wipro, and guys like that.
Mhm.
And they said, no, 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 we have to go to office. We have to meet people. I said, you're all knowledge workers,
Mhm.
and all you need is internet. He said, no, no, it's still not there. So I gave them the example saying that when I went up north, when I went to Allahabad to do my engineering, I had to do away with sambar completely. Like in the mess, we only got roti sabji and dal.
Mhm.
And for a South Indian, like I'm a Tambram, right? I mean, so it's like not easy, right? Because you grow up with sambar. But then I said it's not that that's not food.
Mhm.
So video conferencing and physical meetings. I mean, it's just an analogy, but
Yeah.
I think there has to be some new ways of doing old things,
Mhm.
especially with the current situation, right? Because there's no other way. Right?
Right.
It might have masks, we have the distancing, but still, if more people are going and meeting, it's obvious the probability of cases is going to increase. Right?
Mhm.
So sustainability is important. Of course, I have something very exciting tomorrow, which I'll share with everybody. We are launching probably the world's first virtual office
Yeah.
tomorrow. Yeah, this will be a platform where I think nobody today is really going actively to office,
Mhm.
but I think everybody needs what we call like a work profile, a work center. I thought we all thought for a long time it will be a website, but I think websites have, they just don't work. That's why you have Facebook pages, Twitter handles, emails. So it should be exciting.
Mhm.
But apart from that, which I'll probably save for a later show, would like to ask Ashutosh, the last 1 year, how has sales changed in your organization? Yeah, your observations.
Um, so the beginning of COVID, I would say that March to June, we absolutely had no sales at all, right? So we were not able to get that, and there are two reasons for it. One was obviously everyone was trying to understand their own business because factories were shut down and they were not operating, so they had to look at their own losses and revenues, right? The other thing was the online education. You're right, right? A lot of these industries, they still don't want to do online calls. They want to be in person and then come back, right? So in fact, there are some places where they still ask us, can you come down to Ahmedabad and do this, right? And you're like, no, we can't, right? So we talk about corporate policy and stuff like that, right? So first 3 months were like very hard, and then we changed two things. One was, instead of us going there, we online hired people who were there, in terms of like one developer and then one sales guy. And we did that in Vizag, and then we did that in Ahmedabad. And the tech guy we hired in both places was slightly more senior, and then we hired like one salesperson. Uh, for
Local,
us, I'm sorry.
hyper local model you were talking about, right?
Yeah. So then we made sure that that person is going there, and then we getting that. So that was a strategy that worked for us till October or November, right? What we did in December is that, especially for the Middle East area where we are, right? After hiring, also we did get an approval for one person from our side to go there, but we made sure that they don't go for like like 1 week or 2 week. We made sure that we get this commitment from the customer that if this person is coming, they are taken care of in terms of that. And only once the customer agreed that this will happen, then we sent one person from this side as well, and that was more on the sales side. Uh, what we are doing right now and what is the strategy in the next 2 months is purely on the the sales part. Now that this market is picked up, now we have like three people who from October to now have been trained very well. So in that local market, now they started to approach other people, and we've gotten some business, and that other people are mostly around system integrators. It's not like the business owners themselves, the integrators that they can reach out to in their network, and through them we have started getting back on track. So that's been our strategy.
Hyper local plus the land and expand.
Yes.
If you just jargonize things together, I think that's
Yes.
how it is. Hyper
Yes.
local
Yes.
plus
Yeah. The important factor for us was hiring two people, one on sales and one senior tech. who can guide them over there.
objection handling and all that stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's also critical, right? I mean, also the first hires are very important because they set the tone for that whole locality, right?
Yes.
For the whole location.
Mm.
So they're very important in the hierarchy as well. So,
Right.
superb. Really nice. I'll let you gentlemen continue then. Thanks for thanks to the new people who have joined us to this time,
Yes.
third session. I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll have a wonderful. What's the plan for four, Ashutosh? What's in your mind?
I was thinking we'll do something different. We'll talk about like conflict resolutions. So,
Hmm.
I found out, especially in India, right? So this has become like a big thing that, where, there's like disagreements between founders and stuff like that. And then, like how we can amicably resolve that, and how we can get out of a situation where we're not causing. So this would eventually, I feel that, lead to like the legal and the compliance part of it, and then we can
Right.
talk about HR, legal, and all that into this.
And we can also cover NDAs and stuff like
Yes,
that, right? All part. So that'll be a nice section. So
absolutely.
conflict resolution plus legal. Conflict resolution, because it'll typically be a founder and co-founder and team, right? Focus on that. So
Right.
we can keep a broad one. That focus we can keep. I think it's a nice one.
Yeah.
And there is no textbook, right? That's the beauty of this.
There's no
In
there's
fact,
no
my
yeah.
yeah, my dad, he's of course he's in corporate law,
Mhm.
and many times he talks to me because there's so many companies that incorporate with dad.
Mhm.
A lot of them startups, and like not the modern startup, I would say. Like, of course, he's dealing with more mid-sized kind of companies.
Mhm.
But he tells me so many times they have hundreds of crores of business going on,
Mhm.
and the two brothers can't see eye to eye.
Mhm.
And the father has built that up. The father has kind of built up that business.
Mm.
And these are crazy situations, right? I mean, there's really no good answer. And that's when he says, see, these are the areas where they need to come to my office and meet me.
Mm.
Because that's when it happens in the human level. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Mm.
because there's no book, right? I mean, they're all following the law, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. Except
Mm.
that somebody like that goes in and is a real human there, and remove the ego and do the business, right? So
Yeah.
that's really awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah, looking forward. Appeal to all the audience to come in and share the message with more people, and let's learn together. Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jagat. Take care, man. Cheers, buddy.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Take care. Take care.
So Vijetha, next time when we role play, we'll have to fight each other.
Oh, there's one. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
Huh?
we.
Let's prepare that. So,
Yeah.
Chetak, also Ashutosh, Chetak has asked us to include rebuttals in next session for the sense.
Yeah, sure.
Supposing, I like just let's imagine that I'm very vociferously, say that, man, you're not talking sense, right?
Mm.
Whatever you're claiming doesn't make any, it has no value for me. So,
Mm.
how do you step by step, very firmly but very politely and very sensibly put together rebuttals? How do you handle, tough situations and a tougher customer? We'll do that. We'll do that.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Ashutosh, 1 hour 15 minutes already into the session.
Mm.
So I think and we had I think
We
lot of,
kept that tradition of going overboard.
yeah. So that's how it is. But see, there's so much to talk about. But I think Ashutosh, whatever you're comfortable sharing later on in some of the groups that we are part of, INQ
Mm.
and the founders feed, up to you. I'm not
Yes.
going. Don't share the presentation because
Mm.
I think it's your IP, whatever it is. But anything else that you feel is important or further readings, etc., etc., which could help our founders,
Mm.
I'm happy to to also reshare it with other founders and let's take
Yes.
it forward. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
thank you everyone for joining in. Great session. Episode 3 with Ashutosh is done for startups, for founders, for business owners, and episode 4 is going to be around conflict resolution.
Mm.
So that's going to be fun, Ashutosh, and we'll work together, of course. Thank you
Yes.
so much for taking this time. Beautiful presentations, very nicely, very crisply put together.
Thank you.
So much appreciated, much gratitude for taking time out. You're a founder, you're an investor, you're doing so much of work, and but it's much. All can I say is thank you. Okay.
No, no. I mean, you do so much for the community. I'm just not even doing 1% of that. So
Arre, no,
whatever I can do to help,
fantastic,
happy
fantastic.
to.
And maybe next time what we'll do, we'll bring someone to act like a upset customer or something like that. Okay.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, let's do that. So and
Yes. Anyone from audience who want to raise
anyone
their
from
hand and do that,
it could be anyone. It could be Venkat or Chetak or whatever.
yes,
Let's bring them on for a 5 minute role play kind of
yeah, yeah,
impromptu. But we'll
yeah.
tell them act very tough and very inconsiderate and very arrogant. And what.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As long as you don't abuse, man. Everything.
Yeah, we'll keep some etiquette in place and then we'll, okay, perfect. Hey, thanks, man. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. and
Thank
much appreciated.
you.
And Venkat has written careful table turns, it seems. Yeah, that's an interesting one. All right. Hey, perfect, perfect. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so much,
joining
everyone.
once
Yeah.
again. All right. Take care.
Have a good weekend. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Yeah.
Thank you.